Hello, and welcome to the Joss Brown Podcast. With over 40 years of combined financial planning experience serving high net worth clients, we will discuss our favorite topics, concepts, and stories. Hello, and welcome back to the Joss Brown Podcast. I'm Devin Joss.
I'm Michelle Robinson.
And we are here with a new episode for tax season and how to prepare for tax season, which is coming up.
Real soon.
March and April is when you should start thinking about these things, right?
Well, yeah, we're kind of recording this on early part of February, so this is a time when people are really getting into gathering all their documents to go do their taxes. So yeah,
custodians are rolling out all their 1099s and everything else. So
some custodians are a little bit
late.
Yep.
A little late.
Yep, we won't say who they are, but they're always a little bit late.
Yeah.
So for the custodians that are a little bit late, just don't rush.
Yeah.
Do it in March so you don't have to amend it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But we'll be going over a couple tips, couple things that people miss out on, and then just how to get everything to your accountant, what you need to be aware of. And if you do your taxes yourself, we might touch on a couple of things as well. But just to get started, first, number one tip is to stay organized. Once you receive these documents, your W-2s, W-4s, all these different statements from either your school or custodian, keep those organized, keep them filed. If they're paper, put them all in one folder. That way it's easy to hand to your accountant. But just know where everything is. And yeah, that's tip number one, pretty simple.
Yeah, so some of the documents that you're going to receive are like your 1099-R. Those are for retirees who are taking RMDs.
Yep.
1099 INT, of course, if you're gaining interest on your account, you know, you're from your bank, you're going to get those as well. Your pension statement, your annuity statement, social security statement at the end of the year, your W-2. And of course, if you have rental properties, ensure that you've gathered all the information there to put in a folder as well. And if you are a contract worker, of course, your 1099 NEC or 1099K if you have a limited partnership. Or partnership in general, just make sure that you are gathering all of those documents and you're sticking them in a folder so that when it's time to go to your CPA, or if you're doing them yourself, it's also good to have everything organized and be in one folder, and then get that over to them. So you want to make sure that you're doing that on a regular.
Yeah. So those are the sources of income statements, what Michelle listed off, which are things that you'll be given or sent, or if you are a self-employed, then that's something you'll have to fill out.
Yeah, you want to make sure you have your expenses.
Yeah.
So make sure you're keeping track of your expenses all year so that at the end of the year, then you could just turn over that document that you're keeping them on and tracking them for your CPA, because of course you have to report all of those expenses, of course, to the CPA. So you want to make sure that you're doing that. Right?
Yeah, you want to keep track of your receipts, income, expenses, assets that are being depreciated, as well as miles that you're driving.
Yes. For these business owners, they want to track their mileage, and there are apps out there to track your mileage on them, so that you'll just have that information to turn it over to your CPA.
Yep.
That way you don't have to sit there each month and clock mileage and put it on a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Just get the app and then just pass on that information to your CPA, right? So that's what I would say. But now we're going to talk about a few things that we oftentimes see people miss out on, just because they forget to tell their CPA. But if you're working with a financial advisor, here at Joss Brown, we tend to pass that information on to CPA because we keep them in the loop. But if you don't have a financial advisor and you're out there and you're doing it on your own, let's just talk about a few things that we often see people miss out on reporting on their taxes, right? So non-deductible IRAs. This is reported on Form 8606, right? And so this is because you've done an IRA contribution and you're not going to get a deduction on it. So you need to tell your CPA because it needs to be reported. So when you do get ready to pull money from that account, they know how to tax that account, right? Your SEP contributions for business owners who are making SEP contributions and IRA contributions, especially if you made them in that year, you want to make sure that you're reporting that information on, right? Roth conversions, right? Backdoor Roths. These are information that you want to pass on as well. If
even Roth contributions. You want to keep track of that you are contributing. So if you ever did need to take out, you know what the cost basis is.
Right. Yes. And then if you're gifting through a donor advised fund, right, that's information. They tend to send you the information on one paperwork at the end of the year. Just make sure that you're passing that on to your CPA, right? And 529 contribution. This is a big one because people are missing out on their deductions there, and so you get a deduction for your state. And so if you're making 529 contributions, please report it to your CPA so you can get your deductions, right? Qualified charitable distribution. This is where people who are over 70 and a half can take from their retirement plan, their IRA, and from their IRA they could take RMDs, or before 70 and a half, not before 70 and a half, before 73, 70 and a half, they could take that money and they could send those dollars to charity. You want to go ahead and tell your CPA about this, because by telling them about this, this is not going to be seen as taxable income. So you want to report that, right? Any rollovers, we've seen this too, where people they have retired and they have rolled over their account from one custodian to the next, and it's not being reported on their taxes. So you want to make sure that you're telling them of that information. HSA, health savings account, you want to make sure that you are reporting this as well. Any excess contribution, if you make excess contribution, say for instance you were in a certain AGI tax bracket and you thought that you could contribute to an IRA, and for some reason this is good, you've gotten a pay raise and you're now out of the bracket where you're eligible to make that contribution. Now you have to make sure that you tell that CPA so that they could remove that excess contribution so you're not being penalized. And for people who make early withdrawal, so if you make early withdrawal from your IRA account or retirement account, you want to tell them, because 59 and a half for IRA, 55 if you have retirement account, and if you do take out before then, there are early withdrawal penalties, right? So you want to report them. If you have rental property that you're not staying in, it's not you're not staying it, you're renting it out and you're making money on it, then you want to make sure that your CPA is aware of this so that they could report the depreciation on each asset, right? So these are some things. If you have a limited partnership, no rushing. Do not rush to file your taxes, because sometimes these limited partnership paperwork is going to come later. So you may have to do an extension, right? If you are working at 2 different jobs and you are contributing to 2 different jobs, you want to make sure that you tell your CPA about this, just to ensure that you may not be over contributing, right? So these are things that you need to check. So all in all, these are some things where we see people miss out on reporting. And so today we're just taking the time to say, hey, here's some lists. Don't forget these things, because they need to be reported on your taxes, right?
Yeah, I know that sounded like a lot, but don't be overwhelmed. If you work with an accountant or financial advisor, we'll be asking you these questions, and so just answer them correctly. If you have kids, let them know that you have kids, and there's some tax credits and deductions for different things. But yeah, I mean, we've caught some mistakes and it's worked out, and so we are on your team, and that's what we're here for, to just a second eye, I guess.
So if I would say anything as a call to action, is I would say during the course of the year, as you're making these contributions or withdrawals or anything, Roth conversions, anything that you're doing in your account during the course of the year, if you don't have a financial advisor, you don't have a CPA, and you're doing it yourself, you may want to take note so that at the end of the year, you already have compile a list of all these stuff. And if you do have a CPA, it's also good so that you could go ahead and pass that information on to them. And when you get your tax return, you could go through with them and just ensure that they could show you where these things are being reported on the taxes, so you know that they were reported, right?
Yep.
So it's a good practice if I were you to just take the time to really like, okay, I've made a list, I passed it on to my CPA, and now when I collect my documents, I'm going to have that conversation and said, show me where these things were reported, so you know for future years where to look for this information.
Yep. Good. Well, I think that's a pretty simple episode on how to prepare for tax season. I went through some easy tips and things that you may or may not have already known. But yeah, if you need tax help, then you can reach out to us or any local accountants, and they'd be happy to help.
Well, we're not experts at taxes, but we're experts at financial advice. But we do know how to read a tax return and what to look for in tax return. And of course, we will be happy to help you with your financial affairs. And if you need referral for a CPA, we also have good CPAs that we work with in our local area.
Good. Well, happy tax season.
All right. I know it's no fun, but try to have fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for watching another episode, and we'll see you on the next one on the Joss Brown Podcast.
All right. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Joss Brown Podcast. If you'd like to see more episodes, visit our website at jossbrown.com.